Hello, everybody, and welcome. Oh, we got some bad feedback here. Give me one sec. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I had to get the other camera set up to not give feedback. We get set up here. Rid of that feedback. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I thought I'd do just a little bit of an afternoon stream. I don't usually stream in the afternoon, so I don't know what the turnout will be like or anything. I didn't schedule it very far in advance, but welcome. And what I wanted to do today was kind of go through, what my life's been the last month or so with raising baby clownfish. So first off, I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Chevy Fish, Chubbs Aquatics, welcome. Fishonic Tank Kicks. Welcome everybody, and welcome everybody who's listening but not chatting. That's okay too, and welcome everybody who'll watch the replay. So I want to start with a bit of a disclaimer. I am not a marine expert, period. I am not a marine expert. I know absolutely nothing about corals. I know very little about anemones, a little bit because I have a couple, but I know very little about them, and I know very little about most marine fish, including clownfish. I'm not a clownfish expert by any means. I was fortunate enough to purchase a pair that were bonded, and within 6 months of owning them, maybe a little bit longer actually, they started spawning for us. So basically, my partner and I, we were like, what do we do here? We looked it up, did a bunch of research on what it was going to take to raise these things. And it turns out it's quite a bit, but it was doable. We absolutely botched our first try at it. It was horrible, no survivors. I did absolutely everything wrong, didn't have things prepared ahead of time. Now, preparation ahead of time is absolutely vital. If you're not prepared ahead of time with some small rotifers, either type L's or type S, you will have a very slim chance of being successful. It depends on it. It absolutely depends on it. So I'm going to throw a couple other camera angles up here. I did do some preparation work today for this stream, and I have a camera on my 22-day-old baby clowns, and I have a camera on some fresh 2-day-old rotifers. Now, when we're looking at this camera, I do have it on the front of the tank. I usually have the front of the tank completely covered, blacked out, but we're going to take our chances for the short time we're on this live stream and keep the glass visible so we can see them. So I will throw these up, the babies. These are the larvae. I don't know how well the picture is. It's okay. These are the larvae, and they are really, really small. I've actually left the water not tinted as green as I normally have it. I normally have the water much more green than this. But for the sakes of the live stream, I've left the water not quite as green, or we wouldn't see them at all. And that's what makes it hard to see them right now is because of the slight tint that's in there. Reasons for tinting. They don't really, they're okay with light. As you can see, I have light on them after they've hatched. They're okay with light, but I like to give them the option if they like that much light or not. They are a little bit light sensitive at this stage. They don't like a lot of drastic moves or anything else. And if I don't give enough information right now, if Chevy Fish, if you could please put up the link to the last video I did of setting up the hatch rack and getting your larvae started. I believe I did a fairly well job at depicting what needs to be done to get up to this point right now. So that that might be a good reference for everybody. But anyways, yeah, the tinting, it's very hard to see, but there's like a million rotifers in that tank. And we'll get to rotifers as well because they're such an important part of this talk. They're such an important part of actually getting baby clownfish to survive. Without rotifers, I wouldn't be on day 2. They would have already starved to death. They're not great hunters, so perfect. Thank you, Chevy. That's the link to get to a video I just did, and it's yeah, it explains everything in better detail than I will today because we do got to get moving. I got a lot of stuff I want to go through, so I got some live feedings I want to go through and whatnot. But these rotifers, these larvae, they are not exceptional hunters. They need the light to hunt, but they need the water tinted. And the other reason for the water being tinted is I just keep rotifers in with them. And if you don't keep the rotifers fed, the rotifers will die and the rotifers will not reproduce. And I want the rotifers to reproduce in there as well. Another reason for that is it keeps up on my rotifers, less work for me. I do have to do a lot of water changes. It's due for one right now. But the babies get all different sizes of rotifers doing this. I don't know if it's the right way or the wrong way, but what I do know is it's the way that's working for me. So if the rotifers are breeding in the hatch tank where the larvae have hatched, then they're getting every different size of rotifer. They're getting rotifers that are full-grown adults. They're getting baby rotifers, mid-size, whatever fits in their mouth and whatever they want to eat. But also what a lot of people don't know, and I learned very recently as well, is that rotifers only hold the nutrients that I'm gut loading them with. And when I say gut loading, it means feeding them. They're storing the nutrient in their gut, and then the baby fish or larvae is to eat it, and they receive that nutrients that the rotifers have in their gut. Rotifers have very little nutrients on their own. They're just a very good way to get nutrients into your baby fish or larvae. So yeah, it only lasts for like an hour and a half. So I have to keep that tint that I'm enriching the rotifers with in the water so they continue to be enriched. And then the baby larvae are getting that enrichment all the time. I hope that makes some sense to everybody. But that's what we're doing. So yeah, so that's that tank. I'm gonna show you another tank here that I have set up. Hopefully the video is good. Yeah, the video is all right. So there's and this is only a small portion of the tank that the video is on, but there's some 22-day-old baby clownfish, and as you can see, they are still really small, but they have their clownfish colors. They are all pretty much done metamorphosis, and another day or two, and I'm going to move them into a grow out tank. They'll be done with the small hatch tank. So what I want to do, guys, there's a very cool one on the screen. Oh, he just darted out. He had a lot of white on him. There's all different color patterns. It's so neat. But what I'm going to do is I want to, I've never fed them freshly hatched baby brine shrimp. So I have some freshly hatched baby brine shrimp, and I have it ready to go in a jar. That's why I'd like to do it kind of at the start of this stream, because I don't want them going bad in this jar. They're not in much water, so I'd like to feed them to these guys, and I'll try and feed it right in front of the camera. and I'll go up there while that's happening. Obviously, I will plug my headset in there, and we can chat a bit while we watch these guys. As you can see, they're already starting to get a little bit aggressive with each other. We'll see how they do with some fresh hatched baby brine shrimp. So unless there's any questions right now about what we've already talked about here, we'll go ahead and move on to these guys up there. I will see you guys there in just a moment.
Hello. Hopefully everybody can hear me. So I have the brine shrimp here, and we'll try and pour it right in front of the camera. That was about half of it. Probably way too much. Well, let's see. They seem to be going after it. And we'll see if we can get more of them into the camera here. But yeah, this is the first time they've ever ate this, which is pretty neat. I've heard people having issues with them becoming dependent on brine shrimp and not accepting like granule foods or prepared foods at all. So I actually started, this is the first time they've ever had brine shrimp. They've had mixed gut-loaded copepods once, but normally they just get powdered mix of many different types of food. But this is pretty cool to see them pigging out on this. So okay, we'll head back down, we'll keep this on, and we'll keep the show rolling.
And those guys are Those guys are up in my bedroom closet. This is why I've actually gone and made this rack for actually hatching these guys out, because I don't want to be doing that anymore. We put them up there originally because I didn't have anything set up in the basement, and it was a really quiet spot, and they just yeah, nobody was bothering them, anything. But this is really cool. It's the first time I've seen them eat baby brine shrimp as well. But they seem to be enjoying it, it looks like. I don't think they really knew what to do with it when I first dumped it in there, but they're going to town. So I think this is kind of neat that we can actually see how they're doing things. So now that that's out of the way, I'm glad it's going well, and it is good to see them eating it. I just didn't want those brine shrimp to go bad in the jar. There wasn't, I didn't have much water in with it, and it was, I didn't realize that much. That was actually only half of the brine shrimp that I took up there, so it was a pretty good hatch of brine shrimp. So what we can do now is we can actually go I think it I lose audio if I take me off of the stream. Damn. So I don't know where I went with this, but I was talking about rotifers. If my audio was lost, I apologize for that. Rotifers, a lot of people think are a big pain in the ass, and this is what stops a lot of people from actually um, going ahead with trying to breed their clownfish. And they're really not that much of a pain in the ass once you get going. They're no worse than anything else if you're trying to do live food. Maybe a little bit easier if you have the right equipment. Hello, Bob from Kalers. Hello, HC Aqua. Welcome. Just noticed a few new guys. Perfect. Glad the audio is good. Yeah, I know what I did wrong there. This program, if I take my face out of the screen, it essentially takes out my audio too. So I have to keep my ugly mug in the screen or switch to these cameras. But I'm going to switch to the Larvae camera in one sec here, and we'll go through, yeah, how I like to look after the rotifers. So stay tuned.
Hello, hello. Oh, sorry. I have to mute. Perfect. So here we are. This is basically my fridge that I keep my brine shrimp eggs in, my rotifer food in, my rotifer enrichments in. I brought this bucket over just to pour in water that's going to be wastewater. How we're going to clean our rotifer bucket. Some fresh salt water, some fresh marine water. One sec, I got better lights here. There we go. So yes, I got some fresh marine water, and we're gonna clean out my rotifer bucket right here. I'm gonna show you it. It desperately needs to be fed. Desperately needs to be fed. So, just looking for my lights. Okay. So hopefully you can see them. They need to be fed pretty badly. There is all kinds of shit on the bottom. That's just leftover stuff. I've had the water, the bubbler off for a few minutes just so that could all settle to the bottom, because it's pretty important to clean that stuff out. I don't think I'm actually going to do it on film right now. I just want to kind of run you through what you're going to have to do. It's going to be too difficult holding lights and cameras and everything else. But anyways, this is my rotifer culture bucket. I got it from Reed Mariculture. So far, it's worked fantastically. Again, usually you can't even see in the bucket because I have it loaded, but you can see the rotifers. They're not moving around much because there's no aeration, but there they are. They're fairly thick. There's probably only 2 million or so in this bucket right now. I'm a little bit low because I've been feeding a lot. But basically, they're so easy to care for. Once you got them in, you just have to feed them, essentially. Add air and feed them. This bucket here is just mixed copepods, different kinds of copepods. It needs a water change, but there's all kinds in there. Again, I have the aeration off just so we can see. But this one doesn't have this elaborate lifter system set up at all. It's just got an air stone going in it, and it does just fine. I am going to put a lifter system because I believe this actually holds a lot of really good bacteria in the bucket. So when I do take this out, and it's very, very easy to take out, you literally unsnap it from one side. It might not be that easy with one hand, but yeah, it isn't. Basically, unsnap one side, take it off, and it comes right out. And what I do with this to clean it is, sorry, this is hard with one hand. There we go. I got sludge all over me. Is I'll take it in the wastewater. Whatever water I take out of this bucket for a water change would go into this bucket. And in this bucket, I just rinse it out like I would a sponge filter. I treat it like a sponge filter, essentially. Yeah, and I wring it out, rinse it out, clean it out the best I can, and I put it back in because I believe it holds really good bacteria for keeping the ammonia down and whatnot. Now, speaking of keeping the ammonia down in your rotifer culture system, just grab this here. I use a product called RG Complete. RG Complete actually has a pH buffer and Chloramax for ammonia control. And I believe that definitely helps with controlling the ammonia in your rotifer system. I think that's very imperative. Now, I do this like every 2 days. Every 2 days I clean the bucket out. It's been 2 days since I cleaned it out. I essentially, when I go to clean the bucket out, I use this scrubber, and really, I just scrub. Takes me, when I have 2 hands to do it, takes me literally 5 minutes. Clean the bucket, rinse the thing, and get my rotifer culture system all set up. Now, after I've cleaned the bucket and let that all settle to the bottom, when I go to remove water from the bucket, if I don't want to waste all my rotifers, I use the sieve. The sieve, I will pour the water that I'm taking out of the bucket through it, and it will collect the rotifers, and I'll put the rotifers back in the bucket so we don't waste them. If I have like a lot of rotifers, I honestly don't worry about it because I only change about 20% of the water. So in essence, I'm taking about 20% of the rotifers out. With a very healthy rotifer culture, you should, in essence, be harvesting about 30 to 40% of your rotifers daily. Absolutely daily. And that will help keep your system healthy. Get the old rotifers out, get the new ones in. Very hard to see these little guys, especially now with that light on for glare. Sometimes a top view is the best view you can get of them. But there is a healthy batch of the larvae in here. Now this larvae system, it's very close to everything. It's in my basement. There's my studio over there. And this is where it's all going to happen from now on. No more hatches up in the bedroom. The other hatch tank will go right here where I have the brine shrimp going right now. And it's all going to be placed nicely, so it's real easy to get at everything. One more thing I want to add about the rotifers is the rotifers on this dial, on the hydrometer, you want to be at 20. Don't want to be quite marine. I actually keep it a little bit less than marine. 1.020. That's where I keep my rotifers at. I keep my clownfish at 1.022. So that's something to think about as well, possibly. So I hope if anybody has any questions about rotifers, ask at any time of the live stream. Chevy fish. That's Sieve. I got it from Reed Mariculture. It actually came with my starter kit, this bucket with the lifter system and everything. It came in that starter kit, so it was like 75 bucks American. You got the bucket, the starter kit, the sieve, an air pump. That's about it. Everything you need to start up. So I believe it is 42 micron. I don't think it would be a hard item to actually make. If you could get the mesh, I don't think it would be a hard item to make at all. But I have seen them for sale, and they're usually about 20, 25 bucks purchased on their own. Okay. Sorry, just looking to see if there's any more questions. I can't see the questions on this sucker here. So before we put the mobile phone down, I'm just going to take you up and let you see the parents and the tank that they actually breed in. Don't get too excited. It's not overly exciting. It's not a fancy tank by any means, but it works. It's my very first saltwater tank, actually. So I'm just going to show you as well when I'm not filming. This is the way I keep the larvae until until metamorphosis. All right, let's run up and have a look at the adult tank. Welcome through the jungle. Don't mind the Roscoe hair everywhere. I'm sure he'll be up here in a moment. All right. Here you go, guys. I don't usually take much video of this tank during the day because you always get a nasty glare. But there's Mama and Dad, Paul the puffer fish. I have a green spotted puffer in here as well, and a blue tang. Nobody's very camera shy in this tank. They're actually camera hogs. It's hard to get everybody in there. But I generally have a 4-inch flower pot sitting there underneath that anemone. And that's where my clowns choose to spawn. They're very bonded to that anemone and each other. No aggression towards each other at all. Yeah, they don't even really have a lot of aggression towards anybody else in the tank, to be honest. It's amazing because the dory fish there, she just gets her nose right in their business. They give her a couple shots once in a while, but nothing too serious. And Paul gets along with everybody in there too. Paul the puffer fish, he just hangs out. He was actually the first occupant of this tank, so he's doing quite well. Eats a lot of snails. But that's it. That's our 65-gallon tall in our dining room. Like I said, nothing special, no special corals. Running it is not an expensive marine light, 165 watts. I have an AquaClear 110 on the back, and I have a protein skimmer rated for, I believe it's 90 gallons, 90 or 100 gallons, and about 100 pounds of live rock. Power head, wave maker, heater. Simple, not expensive, just a simple, very simple tank. Yes, Bob, they do host an anemone. He's looking a little pissed off right now, so he's not sticking out too much, but there he is there. And like I said, usually there's a 4-inch terracotta flower pot there, and that's where they spawn, but that's currently in the larvae hatch tank right now. But there they are. They're hosting that anemone there. To be honest, if I don't get that pot back in there, not that I really care, because I'm not going to save the next hatch anyways. But they'll spawn right behind that anemone again, probably within the next day or two. They seem to have a hard time going 5 days without spawning. Yes, Chevy fish. Anything smaller than 50, eh? I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's 42 micron. Anyways, I'm going to head back down to the studio. And I can answer any questions anybody's got about the rotifers. I guess what else I can show you too, since we're just kind of touring today. Here's the rest of the fish room for anybody who's never seen it. I'm mostly a freshwater guy, but I've been bit by the dark side, and now I'm turning into a saltier guy. Anyways, this here is don't mind the watermarks and whatnot, but this is going to be the new grow tank that I have cycling. It's pretty much cycled, I think. Looks like there's a dead bristleworm in it. Maybe it's not cycled that good. But It is cycling. I got a piece of rock in there, and we'll let that keep cycling. I'll do a water change on it. Today, I actually going to I use the water out of this tank for the water changing on the rotifers and the larvae. So it's getting lots of water changes to get cycled.
We're back. So yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any more questions about raising baby clowns. I don't know if I've missed anything. See if anybody's got any questions. Yeah, so like I said, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but I seem to be figuring it out. Yeah, only 2 million rotifer Chevy. I usually have like 10 million in that bucket. So it sounds like a lot, but they're awfully small. So 2 million doesn't go that far. So where I got my rotifers from, I'll mention that as well. One sec, gotta wet my whistle, too much talking. So my rotifers, the rotifer culture bucket, everything I purchased from Reed Mariculture. The foods are the most important. The foods for the rotifers. So, and that's where this throws a lot of people off. You got to get food for your fish. It's not as simple as just sprinkling powder in, but it is after 1 week. It's 1 week you got to do that for. It's 1 week of making sure you got enough rotifers, 1 week of making sure your rotifers are gut loaded, and then it's on to powdered foods. I literally grind like 5 different types of food together. After they're about 6-7 days, I start introducing it, and they eat rotifers and that. And quite frankly, switch very quickly. Within a day or two, you can pretty much take them off rotifers and onto this food. Some people maintain keeping them on rotifers a bit longer. I'll still throw a few gut-loaded rotifers in, but I will not keep the tank loaded with rotifers after that 6 or 7 days. My reason being is I want to be able to use a filter after that. When you're feeding rotifers and keeping green water, if you have a good sponge filter, which is what I use with them, you're going to take the green water right out of the tank. Then they got no food. You're going to suck the rotifers right out of the tank. They're going to get sucked right into the filter. So as soon as you want to be able to start putting in a sponge filter, that's when you got to pretty much stop with maintaining a colony of rotifers in your tank, because it's just not possible. And like we're all experienced fish keepers here, we all know that if you don't eventually get a filter in there, you're going to have a really hard time keeping up with the food waste and the fish waste, because there's a lot of fish in there. In a 7-gallon tank is all that one is. So yes, at about 7 days, I switched to the sponge filter, and she just powder food from there on in. Looks like I was actually maybe smart to wait until about 3 weeks to feed them brine shrimp. Like, these are fresh hatch brine shrimp, and I'm watching this for the first time with you guys. It looks like it's matching the hatch right there. That's about the size of them. Look at the guts on them. They're eating good. That's great. So nothing. If anybody's interested, I would like to, for food. What am I feeding the babies for powdered food. I didn't put a lot of science into it, but I did put some science into it. And what that was research, research, research. Many people have found great success with a lot of the Chroma TDO series of food, the A, B, and C, and all that. And I've heard it's great food. Everybody raves about it. There's only one major issue with it for me, is I can't get it in Canada. It's not legal for sale in Canada. It's legal in the States, it's legal in Japan, it's legal everywhere except Canada. Real pain in the ass to get it, and I don't want to have to deal with something like that. I want stuff easy to get that I can work on. To the point where I'm actually looking for somewhere else to get my rotifer food from other than Reed Mariculture. I'm not knocking them at all. But what I am knocking is the geographical difference between me and Reed Mariculture. They're in California. I'm in Ontario, Canada. The shipping was horrendous. It was a terrible affair. Their products are fantastic, and I wish the shipping was easier. I've had great success with their products, but being out of country, it's been very hard to get their products in. So I'm actually going to look for a supplier where it's easier to ship from, because it was very expensive to ship it. It had to be shipped twice because it was all messed up the first time. So it was nothing but a huge stress and headache. So yes, if I can find, I'm actively looking for a better place to get my rotifer food and water tinting from. But that's where I got the rotifers. They send you 1 million to start with, so you have to be on it and make that 1 million into 2 million pretty quick, and you'll see it's easy. It's very fast. I'm guessing that couple hundred larvae I have swimming around that 10-gallon tank, I'm guessing they eat probably 500,000 rotifers a day each, or I mean all together with all of them. Like, they eat a lot. That's all they do is eat. So you need to keep up on it quite a bit. As far as the powdered foods, what I grind together, the science that I put together for it is research. And like I was saying, the Chroma TDO series is a fantastic choice for food for it, but hard to get here. Very hard to get here. So I had to start kind of going out of the box. So I started reading some articles, some university articles and whatnot, and it gave me some ideas on what to look for in foods to make a food that would work for them. And obviously, I still don't have great proof that this mix works other than what you're looking at in the screen. But being a novice, I don't know if these guys are large in size for their age, small in size. They seem healthy. That's all I can really look at and go, they're robust, healthy fish. Most of them made it through metamorphosis. There's like one or two, or maybe 5 that seem to struggle with meta, and I think they're just not going to make it, those ones. But for the most part, the majority seem healthy. So from what I read, one ingredient that I wanted in their powdered food was brewer's yeast. All accounts that I read, that if you feed your fry up to 5% daily body weight brewer's yeast, it will effectively boost their immune system huge, like double, make it twice as good, twice the survival chances. So with that said, I started to be on the hunt for a food with brewer's yeast, and if I couldn't find that, I was just going to get brewer's yeast and mix it in with it anyways. But I did find a food with brewer's yeast, and people may be shocked to know which one it is. And I'll tell you, it was the third ingredient down. It wasn't like at the bottom of the ingredients list. It was the third ingredient down. And that was Hikari First Bites. You know, the cheap-ass Hikari First Bites little packs? That was it. They're onto something. They did the research. So I took that, I put about 25% of that food in the mix. Another food I put in the mix was North fin fry starter. And sorry, I just caught on to something Chevy Fish was saying here. I will definitely look that up and see if that works, Chevy. Thank you. Also, yeah, in the North Fin fry starter, they have one ingredient, and that's 100% krill. Gotta be good for them. It's full of all the omega boosters and everything. So with taking the Hikari fry starter, it's got a lot of fish meal in it, wheat germ, brewer's yeast, and then adding just a pure protein punch and color punch of the 100% krill North Fin. Didn't stop there. I took the I'm trying to remember. It's First Bites. It's bug. It's like a bug. It's not North Fin. Shit. Now I'm gonna have to look. My mistake, everybody. It's the fluval bug bites. And I'll tell you, all my fish that this fits in their mouth and they go nuts for this stuff. They go absolutely nuts for it. So it's got all kinds of great stuff in it. We'll just have a quick little peek. I don't remember the list off the top of my head, but it starts with black soldier fly larvae. That's essentially what's in it. Fish protein concentrate, green peas, potato, wheat. Then we're getting into some chemicals that I can't pronounce, so that might not be that good for them. But that seems to be the gist of it. Black fly soldier larvae. So that's in the blend as well. Also, I have New Life Spectrum marine formula in the blend, and I also have North Fin marine formula in the blend. And yeah, they seem to be doing okay. I grind it right up with a pepper mill, as small as it goes. It's powder, and that's what I feed them because they're not that big. They sometimes when they come up on the camera a bit there, they look like they're fair size, but they're really not. They're like not much bigger than a 1/4 inch. Like they're very small. So they need small foods, but they need lots of it. And I think that's been another key to success. 2 keys: water changes and food. Lots of food, lots of water changes. You can't do lots of food and not lots of water changes. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. What ends up happening is you end up fouling your water, having shit water quality, and you're just working against yourself at that point if you try and do that. Lots of water changes are important, and I think water stability. So the water that I changed, the water that I put back into this tank, is actually from the main tank that I showed you earlier, where the parents live. What that does 2 things. So what that does is it engages me to do more water changes on the main tank, because I have to if I'm taking water from it for these guys, and I want it to be clean water for these guys. And it keeps the parameters exactly the same, because that is an extremely stable tank. It's 65 gallons. It's stable. But now, since doing this, it's basically getting a 15% water change every day. So it's been really healthy for that tank as well. And I'm going to do the same thing in the basement here with this rack. Essentially, the Clown Grow Out tank is going to be the water change tank, and it's probably going to get like a 40% water change every day if I'm actually running 2 hatch tanks. And like I said earlier, with the tank upstairs, I'm not too worried about them spawning before I get the terracotta pot back in, because I think at very most I'm going to keep every other hatch. At very most. I have to be responsible. about this, and everybody else should be responsible about this as well. I'm not telling everybody to. I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that if you're going to get really good at hatching out clownfish, you will also need to get really good at figuring out what you're going to do with them after that. So let's face it, mine hatch, literally I can have a hatch about every 12 days. So in less than 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, I can have a hatch. Say you get 100 fry survive from each of those hatches. So that's 2 a month. That's 200 babies a month. You do that for 3 months, right, people? We're talking a lot of fish. Now you got to keep 600 clownfish somewhere to raise them out until they're of sellable size. I personally don't know how long that's going to be yet. I've read a bunch of stuff, and it seems to be between, say, 4 and 8 months. So if you have to keep 600 to 1,000 clownfish going in your fish room, if you're going to go on the every 2 weeks basis, that's an awful lot of baby fish to keep, and a lot of preparations to get to that point. My next preparation for the clownfish breeding project that I'm doing is I would like to convert a big tank into compartments with a really nice sump filter, nice sump underneath it. I'm thinking, I have a 90-gallon tank that I'm thinking of doing it with. I think I'd prefer a 75-gallon tank though, just so it's not quite as high. I can reach the bottom easier. But that's, I think a 75-gallon divided into like 4 compartments would be fine. I'm very comfortable with overcrowding a tank if I have the right filtration under it. So if I have a 75 to a 90-gallon tank, I'll probably just use the 90 and keep the water a bit lower in it so it's easier. But if I have a 90-gallon tank, I'm going to have at least a 50-gallon sump under it with live rock, lava rock, everything, socks in it, filter socks in it, sand in it, live sand in it. I want to keep the main grow out tank bare bottom, so it's just easier to look after. Keep all the live sand and everything, and live rock and everything in the sump. I don't mind putting a piece of live rock in each compartment, but that's about it. Other than that, I'd like it to be clear, all the heater, everything down in the sump, and just have that space for growing out fish. And in a 75-gallon, who's to say I couldn't put 200 baby clownfish in there to grow out? So that's where I'm going with it anyways, everybody. I didn't plan on doing a super long live stream today. I think really this has been long enough. I do appreciate everybody who's tagged along and is watching. I hope you got something out of it. And while I'm rambling here, if you have a question that you would like to ask, go ahead and ask. If I can't answer it, maybe somebody else on here can. That's the whole idea of this. But yeah, I'm super cool. It is super cool to see these baby clowns eating the brine shrimp. It looks like they've pretty much devastated them, and they're all up in their corners digesting their food, because the ones I do see look pretty plump. But anyways, everybody, it's my pleasure to share this information with you, and I hope everybody continues to share information back and forth, because the more ideas we get at doing this stuff, the better we'll get at doing it. I can share my ideas. My ideas being a total noob, total rookie with saltwater, might just be kind of off the wall enough to work. And then it's nice to also get the stable ideas from people who have done this for a long time. So yeah, with that, I think we're going to close out. From me to you, happy fish keeping, everybody. Till next time, take care. Bye for now.